In this tutorial in Cyberlink PowerDirector, we continue our two-part look at using some of the new design tools available for color boards for owners of PowerDirector 20 or users of PowerDirector 365. So I have a video clip and I'd like to add a color board to a higher track, so I'm going to get to the color board area. It's hard to find if you're not familiar with it. You need to click on the Display Hide Explorer View blue arrow on the left panel and then go to color boards. As we noted before, you have three subcategories: custom, and you can add your own; uniform color, which is what we've seen before; and gradient color, which is new. We're going to go back into the gradient color and drag the second one down and put it on track number 2. Once it's there, we're going to do some editing. I simply highlight the color board and I can click on change color. But before I do that, I want to change the size of it and the location of it. Let's move it down here and make it a somewhat wide lower third. I want to show you what we can do with it. So I'm going to click on change color. Now I have my new menu available for changing the color, and I have 2 gradient stops, and I can add as many as I want either by clicking the plus key, or what's faster is simply clicking below the color selection, and it will inherit the color between the stop on the left and the stop on the right. In this case it's the first and last, but I can go in and click on it and change it by clicking select color. Let's make this a little bit darker, click on OK, and now I've changed that. Let's change the gradient direction here. And again, we can use all points of the compass, not simply the main ones, and you can edit it as much as you want. I'll change that to a simple 90. And now I've got a nice little flavor here on how this should look. I'm going to move it to the right, and when I do, I get a little more red there. Let's do a little more fancy work here. I'm going to click and set a color board to the right of it, and I'm going to change the color of that one to black. Click on OK. I'm going to move it really close, and I'm going to, unfortunately I can't copy and paste. I right click on it, there's no option to do that. I wish I could, but I'm going to click to the right of it and set another color board, and we'll choose our color. And so we can make some nice effects, as you notice here. Click OK. Again, what we can do is we can move the colors left to right. We can actually hop over colors by moving. I can move the black down to the other end. I can move it back to about where it was before. I can also change the opacity of colors. If I change the opacity value when any of these is highlighted, it will only change the opacity for that color. If I want to change everything, I need to change the opacity of the entire color board on the timeline. But I can take let's take the orange one, dial the opacity back on that one. And so you see a little more of the video behind it. And let me take the one on the end and dial the opacity back on that. So these are some nice variations you can make to your color boards. Let's look at the other option we have besides a linear. Is we have the option of doing a radial gradient. Now when I click on radial gradient, let's make this bigger. I'm going to click on OK. We'll get back into it in a moment. Let's make this go back to our change color. And when I look at this, I have several interesting options. The default is centered, so I can center it any way I want to, and I can see a little more of my background through that color. Then I can also move these. Let's slide these back a little bit. And you notice the effects that we can do with this are virtually unlimited. I'll add another one. Let's change the color of this. Let's change it to kind of a standard yellow. And again, it inherited the opacity of the previous one. We'll make that darker. And so these are some of the options that we have. Now that's the circular one. If we click on either of these two on the left or two on the right, you notice you put them in the upper left corner, upper right corner, lower left corner, or lower right corner. But this creates interesting possibilities. I'll click on OK. So you begin to see some of the ways in which you can vary these. Now let me show you a couple of examples of ones that I have done. When you are working with a color board that's a gradient color board that you've modified, let's get back into this one, go change color. I can do a save as. Here I'm going to save it as a new template. I'll just call this test 2. Now my test 2 is available because if I close it out and go back here and go to my custom color boards, here is my test 2. I'm going to delete the one I was working on. If I take and drag it and drop it on the screen, you'll notice it's full screen. So it only saves it in terms of full screen, but you can use it in lots of interesting ways. Let me delete the one that I have on the screen. Here's one I did earlier. It's a full screen. I'll drag it down, and here's my color board. But when I compress it, it's going to take on a nice look for a lower third. And here's one of those cases where I'm going to take it, and when I have it on my timeline, I'm going to change the features of it. I'll click on it, and then I'm going to use my opacity controls and drag down and just make it a little bit opaque. So now I've controlled the opacity of all the values, all the gradients together in the color board. Let me show you another one that we've created here. We'll take another one and drop it down. Here's one I did that was a simple rainbow. I'll make it slightly smaller. When I click on change color, you notice how I got the rainbow. I went from red to purple. And you can change the gradient direction again any way you want. You can change the opacity of any particular stop as much as you want. And so you can accomplish this kind of effect in CyberLink PowerDirector version 20 or PowerDirector version 365.